She stumbles through the flames. 5-year-old Wad Jalal al-Sheik Khalil, her whole world collapsing beneath her. She was on the roof of the Fahmi al-Jarjawi school in Gaza City, which was hit by an Israeli airstrike at 1 a.m. It had been serving as a shelter where Wad and her family, amongst others, had been staying. Israel says it was harbouring terrorists. 30 bodies were recovered, but survival is its own punishment. The Israeli drone whines overhead. And Wad sits amongst the charred remains, stunned, shocked, traumatized, but only too aware of what has happened. She escaped with a few cuts and bruises. But she knows that 2 of her brothers and her 3 sisters were killed. And what about her parents? Is her father alive? What about her mother? But her mother is dead too. Her brother Siraj and her father survived, but are badly injured. 54,000 dead in Gaza, and 1 little girl holding her uncle's hand, who has lost her mum and her sisters and her brothers, who's been displaced multiple times, who has survived to live in a landscape of ruins in a war that has lasted 1/3 of her lifetime and threatens to last even longer, because the Israeli government says it will continue to attack Gaza until victory, whatever that may mean. Today, the Israel Defense Force put out footage of their troops in Gaza, but not of the airstrike that killed Wad's family. They do little real fighting now because they have weakened Hamas so effectively. The soldiers have been sent to divide Gaza into 3 parts, to control what remains of the population, to control children like Wad, who, if she survives the next attack, will live with loss and grief for the rest of her life.
And Lindsey joins us now from Jerusalem. Lindsey.
Kathy, such a contrast, the scene in Gaza and here in Jerusalem tonight. I'm at the Damascus Gate, the entrance to the Old City. A few yards away inside, right-wing Jews, tens of thousands, are praying and dancing at the Western Wall. That's because today is Jerusalem Day, when they celebrate the seizure of Arab East Jerusalem at the end of the war in 1967. Now, earlier they were dancing and shouting, "Death to the Arabs," and 1967 Jerusalem in our hands, 2025 Gaza in our hands. So you see how the right wing here are drawing parallels between the 2 situations. Earlier in the day, the right-wing Minister for National Security, Itamar Ben-Gvir, he went into the Old City and up to the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That is the 3rd most holy site in Islam. So for an Israeli Jewish politician to go there, that's a provocation. It's done on purpose. It's been done before, most famously by Ariel Sharon in the year 2000. When he was there, he prayed for victory in Gaza. And it's these far-right ministers who control the Israeli government at the moment. And that's why the war continues, even though many military experts say there's no further military reason to do so. And that's why we're seeing the tragedies like the Khalil family today and that little girl who you saw in my report.
Lindsey, thanks very much. Well, earlier I spoke to Dr. Victoria Rose, a surgeon working in Nasser Hospital in Gaza, and started by asking her about the sorts of injuries she's seeing among the children she's treating.
Everything we're seeing here at the moment is related to blast bomb injuries. So that's mainly burns and quite large percentage burns, the sort of percent that would normally be admitted to an intensive care unit in the UK or a specialist burns unit in the UK and dealt with there. And then the other injuries that we're seeing are mainly due to the shrapnel that gets whipped up when a bomb explodes. And that's what we're seeing here at NASA mainly. So it's traumatic amputations of hands, fingers, arms, feet, legs.
So the most appalling suffering, really.
Yeah, things that you would never, ever see in any other situation. And the volume of it is really the staggering part. It's non-stop. It is women, children. It's really, really barbaric what we're seeing here.
And of course, you're working, as I understand, at the same hospital where doctors Hamdi and Allah work, 9 of whose children were killed on Friday, and Hamdi himself was injured. It must be very hard to get your head round.
It's been a real shock for the whole hospital, actually, because they were both so well known. And it's been really devastating for the rest of the staff to see, almost an entire family wiped out. But I have to say that what's happened to them it's not really unusual. They're estimating here at the moment that about 2,300 families, entire families, have been wiped off the civil register. We know that there's 42,000 orphans here in Gaza at the moment, and I think that's the hardest thing for our team here to be dealing with. You often have a child on the table. We've got a 3-year-old with a 45% burn at the moment, and he's the only survivor of his family.
In the context of the horrors that you've just described, clearly aid is essential. Fewer than 500 aid trucks have entered Gaza, as I understand it, since the blockade was lifted. Are you seeing any of that coming through yet?
We haven't seen any delivery of the vital equipment that we need, and we are running low on essential equipment now that we can't make do and mend. And once we're out, if we don't get any supplies, we will not be able to continue operating.
There's been a lot of controversy about the organisation that's backed by the US and Israel to ensure that private firms deliver aid. And the head of that organisation has now quit. Do you welcome his decision to do so? Was that plan unworkable?
I take my hat off to him for pulling out. I do not understand why a private firm has been brought in to do a job that the United Nations and the WHO have been doing perfectly well since this war started.
Israel says this plan would prevent a humanitarian crisis.
The food aid is only going to be distributed in certain points. And to access those points, you have to give your Palestinian ID and your biometric data. And this is the issue that the Palestinians have. And you aren't given your food, you are then allowed into the area to take the aid. And they believe that this is a way of enforcing them into a smaller part of Gaza.
There have been reports today that Hamas has agreed to a ceasefire proposal, but Israel has dismissed it. From where you're sitting, I'm assuming a deal can't come soon enough.
It can't come soon enough. I mean, for all sorts of reasons. As I said, we're running out of supplies to carry on going. But more than that, we are 1.5 kilometers from the active fighting now. So if we are evacuated, those patients will die. So it's really critical that we get a ceasefire right now.
Dr. Victoria Rose, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much.